If you were chasing tasty humans all over Isla Nublar, you'd wear a... You thought I was going to say Rolex, didn't you? Breguet, darling, Breguet! Hashtag Breguet all day. I was not expecting to make this video today. However, if you watch the last episode, I'll leave a link up there. I think it will make sense. I've actually sold a Rolex and purchased another Breguet. And before you start hitting the comments like, what is this, the Urban Breguet channel? I kind of wish it was actually, but I think it will all make sense to you. So don't forget to hit like and let's roll the intro. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. And as you could probably tell by the jingly jangly jubilee there, my wristwatch check wearing the Tudor Vice President, and it is completely relevant to today's video. Okay, let's be a little bit more accurate here. I actually updated a Rolex in my collection with another Breguet. As you know, it's blood in, blood out here for my watch collection. So yeah, I'm making excuses already. You know what? Let's rewind a little bit because I think with context, it will make sense. Let me find my telecomando. Here we go. Right, let's rewind. I was very close to pulling the trigger on a Patek, and in my opinion, one of the most underrated, sublime Pateks of all time. It's difficult to believe that this is the very same brand that creates these ghastly midlife crises on wrists. Fair to say I'm developing a mini obsession for more squared watches, beyond the more obvious and equally beloved Cartiers, of course. You can blame Johnny Walker for that one, and thankfully not the booze, but my very first Longines, which I've nicknamed due to that solid gold loop on the strap, and I still have never seen anything quite like it. But as always, in all honesty, I'm still not ready to join Team Patek. Do you remember a few months back when I almost purchased a Patek World Timer? Well, my wife, who is not only wise beyond her years, but also the rest of humanity, shrewdly said, wait until after the Breguet trip. Of course, she was absolutely ruddy right. Amore mio, ti voglio bene. Upon returning, it all kind of made sense to me, and what better way to commemorate such a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. Now, there was a few Breguets in the running. I did consider another highly underappreciated and arguably their classiest old stately home-moneyed Jeeves and Wooster style heritage collection. Known for its distinctively tonneau or barrel-shaped cases, it's a nice bridge between the conventional rounded curves and my current lust for more straighter outlines, as I just mentioned. I also think these shapes will make a comeback, like the square or tank-style watches. And speaking of tanks, just imagine for a second if these Breguet heritage pieces had Cartier on the dial instead, but with this level of haughty-taughty horological hand finishing, inside and out. Can you imagine the exorbitant prices? Well, this is certainly a Breguet sweet spot, but unfortunately, like all underrated gems, it will soon be mined to death by the insatiable appetite for true Swiss-made luxury. Okay, so not an unboxing in the traditional Urban Gentry way, but we'll still insert the drum roll, shall we? I actually went in person into the city. Quite an impressive setup with an established history. I did my due diligence, and here it is. Oh my Breguet! Che bellezza. So this is the mighty Classique 7337. Oh, that winding. And it is an automatic. Ooh. My God, look at that slenderness. Look at that slenderness. Ragazzi, questo è raffinato. Classique 7337 is one of the longest-lived contemporary Breguet models, being in their catalogue since the 1980s, before being revamped in 2009, like the generation I have here, which is the one that gave the model its current proportions over its previous gen. It also added the off-center seconds, and more on that shortly. They updated it yet again in 2022, but that time it was only a few aesthetic changes. However, like all things Breguet, the roots go far, far deeper, beyond the age of most watch brands for that matter. The first triple calendar, at least in wristwatch form, was designed by the legendary Swiss watchmaker Daniel Roth, with the reference 3330. Now, while Mr. Roth is undoubtedly a watchmaking polymathic genius in his own right, he left Breguet in 1988 to establish his own brand. I think it's fair to say he's most famed for pretty much translating the ancient but firmly established design language set by Abraham Louis Breguet, or ALB. It was Roth who took ALB's pocket watches and distilled them into the modern wrist-adorning capolavori we know as Breguet today. So in terms of negatives, well, we get the inherent Achilles heel with all dressy watches of this nature, the 30 meters water resistance, the pushers obviously more points of entry, and then secondly, this is a personal pet peeve, I loathe deployment buckles. I'm old school, I prefer, the traditional, so I'm probably going to swap this out. I'm going to have a peruse at Holman's, and shout out to Mike at Holman's. In this case, indeed literally, Roth borrowed from several references, primarily the number 3833 pocket watch, along with elements of the later 4579. These watches were from the 1820s. And just to give you an idea of how old the House of Breguet is, at the time in both Switzerland and France, the Industrial Revolution had barely even started, and the brand was already coming up to its almost 50th anniversary. So let's break down some specs. The diameter is 39mm, and it kind of needs to be, as we see something of a signature Breguet trope at this point of Fibonaccian scaled dials within dials, with only the sub-seconds breaking the central lines of symmetry. But I suspect this is a firm nod to the number 3833 pocket watch layout. Equally iconic is the coining of the flanks to the solid 18-karat gold case, and those signature soldered lugs that further underline the pocket-to-wrist design transition. The dial itself is also solid gold, which is then heavily guilloched, which I had the privilege of failing at miserably. It rarely is a true art form to master, so let's just say I'll be sticking to my day job and also part-time YouTubing for now. It's then galvanized in a silver off-white, resulting in a restrained and thus classy richness. It's not showy at all. As for the types of guilloche, we have fish scales on the outer section, a tiny hobnail pattern framing the inner subdials, punctuated by little gold-applied cabochons around the flat, brushed surfaces that serves as a track for the printed numerals. Then there's a basket weave pattern in the center with a sunburst for the sub-seconds. It's simply astounding detail, and you can only imagine the immense amount of time, skill, and fastidious dexterity taken. Naturally, we get the world-famous namesake handset in a very specific tone of thermal bluing, with a Moonphase indication being hand-hammered in gold again, this time a high polish, and contrasted by a beguiling royal blue lacquered sky. The mastery continues on the back as we see a Frédéric Piguet P71, incidentally also part of the Swatch Group, which is heavily modified and decorated to the nines. There's beveling, striping, pelage, engraving, black polishing on the screw heads and screw wells, and even the 3/4 style rotor has guilloche. Speaking of which, this is obviously embedded into the movement rather than sitting and spinning atop of it, enabling it to be an ultra-thin automatic at only 10mm in total height. It's sumptuously refined feeling with a slightly disappointing 45-hour power reserve and a contrastingly contemporary flat silicon balance spring that is remarkably magnetic resistant, perfect for the modern world. So what did I sell, or rather swap? Because actually, believe it or not, it was pretty much equal in value. It's funny, the world desires the Rolex day date, my linen dial, the 18238, the double quick set, slightly bit more than the Breguet, which really should be the other way around, but whatever. I will always love the day date, and I can buy another one later on down the line if I really miss it that much. Actually, if I did buy another one, I'd probably go platinum, but I'm more than happy with this, to be honest. I really am. This is much more me. When I'm feeling a little bit more Tony Soprano / Patrick Bateman, I'll put on this, which is not that often, but occasionally I do.
Taking the gabagool out of the fridge. All this from a slice of gabagool? The gabagool. Gabagool.
Let's get back to that gabagool.
That trip, seeing especially the guilloche and all of that stuff and being there. I'm a Breguet guy. I fell in love with the brand and it means more to me now. Part of it is an evolution of my tastes, I guess. And I think it's normal. My Breguet, it doesn't scream attention like a day date. If you saw on Instagram, I wore it into the city a few times. I'm on the train and I do feel a little bit self-conscious, whereas this just literally not only slides under the cuff, no one's really clocking this. Few people know what it is. I know what it is, and that's all that matters. And as for my Tudor, I speak from experience. They're very affordable to service and maintain, plentiful parts, and so much more solid. I enjoy it for what it is, and I put it on, I don't worry about it. In a strange way, the Vice President is a kind of dagger watch. From a British POV, there's always a slight tinge of Del Boy Trotter connotation to my day date, although Only Fools and Horses is undoubtedly pure class and I adored watching it with my parents as a child.
I think we're on a winner here, Tree. All right? Play it nice and cool, son. Nice and cool, you know what I mean?
But more profoundly, maybe one could interpret the linen dial as a crude precursor to the real dial decoration of guilloche. This 3773 is certainly a day date of another kind, or age you could say, far closer to Thomas Tompion than any president, and with Breguet no longer offering it new in my preferred yellow gold, I had to go pre-owned. I still find it fascinating that the value was about the same. And I think it was an amazing swap, favouring me, so maybe it was written in those tiny little gold stars. Ironically, the minimalist approach of ALB's original stylings, that Roth so diligently reimagined for the modern wrist, is in stark contrast to the luxuriant sybaritic indulgences of the opulence that we typically attribute to the Parisian guillotine-baked upper classes.
Que voulez-vous? Vous tuer.
Quelle sorte d'homme est-il?
C'est un loup solitaire.
I could see this more on the wrist of a Jean-Pierre Melville character, as he wanders down chiaroscuro-lit boulevards, bistros and brothels, like he's in some kind of Brassai neo-noir landscape. Its restraint is more akin to the thin-lipped piety, puritanical, cold-showered and muscular neoclassicism of a non-continental English palate. So is it any wonder that my mother, AMV, or my grandfather, GHW, I'm sure would highly approve? It's a super luxury watch that doesn't scream it like an AP, RM, or the vulgar side of the unfortunate capital letters of PP. ALB was undoubtedly way ahead of his time with this style of what I'd say is intricate minimalism, if that kind of makes sense. Well over a century before the word house followed bow. And during an age when Baroque frivolity, that Jonathan Meades described as emphatic perversity, was still going on strong in a country more famed for, as he put it, putting the S in S and M. The result of this restraint is something that, well, as much as it pains me to say, because it is slightly cringeante and certainly a marketing cliche, but it's timelessly classic. But yet online or on YouTube, I never see it discussed. And it's a crying shame for a brand that I consider above the so-called holy trinity of watchmakers. Yep, I said it again, so come at me in the comments. Chuffed to bits, all the rest of it. Have I done the right thing? Did I make a mistake? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit like, especially if you want to support free, non-AI content, no AI thumbnail or used in the script or imagery or any of that stuff. From a true enthusiast for true enthusiasts. This is not a watch dealer channel. And I'll leave it there. I'll catch you in the next one with non-Breguet content. I promise. Although it might be in the wristwatch check. You can't stop me wearing this. Onwards and upwards. Thank you for watching. Ciao.